Hey everyone, happy Friday. Hope everyone's doing okay. So, I just had a couple thoughts that I wanted to get down on video before I forget about them, I guess you could say. Um, so, on the way home driving, I started thinking, and I started, whether I was led back to, whether I was thinking about it, I don't know. But here recently, you guys have seen that I've been kind of studying a lot lately, and I'm finding these little puzzle pieces and things. And I started thinking about it on the way home, and I realized that during my testimony, there was a lot of different beings portraying themselves as different gods. Like, I can't remember. There was like Ra, and there was Osiris, and there was like Mother Nature, and then even the Christian God. And originally, I thought it was faith, whether I could keep to the same one, which that could possibly be still something, but it also, based on what I'm finding now with all the different commonalities and things like that, it makes sense that there may have been that God was trying to tell me in a sense that there's something to it all. Even from the very beginning, I was seeing all these different puzzle pieces, and it seems like whatever I went through in some aspect has been kind of like a blueprint. Um, Between AI starting to really enhance now, and how I saw these intelligent beings that sounded like they were like AI-ish robots, and just a lot of other stuff. And although I do, I think there's a high possibility that a lot of the ancient prophecies, foretellings, maybe even some of the ancient mythological stories, were foretellings for Christ or the Sheosant to come. And the I told you guys I do believe that there's like I believe there's a truth between the Zorro, the Gnostics, and the Christianity or the Bible. But something happened, and I will say that based on my own experiences and what and other visionaries and people could probably agree with me. Now, as a seer, as I see things and I see a lot of stuff, you have the Gnostics. They have the point of view where the divine spark is trapped inside the human body, and they're basically saying the human body is like a prison. Okay, I think one of the reasons why they were thinking this is possibly because as you start to awaken more and you start to increase your spiritual senses and Christ consciousness, like I said, I do believe Christ consciousness is a thing, but Yeshua was the vessel for Christ, and the Christ consciousness ultimately is God. Since he was the vessel for the original Christ consciousness, so it's the same. Okay. Um. What was I saying? I'm trying to think of how I want to put it. Okay, so the Gnostics. I believe that they saw this flesh as a prison, because some of these people, whether they're visionaries, prophets, seers, whatever, were seeing such amazing things that to them it felt like this had to be a prison, because there's so much more out there that we can't see. And I kind of think that's how it went from Zoroastrian, where they talk about duality, and then there's good and bad. And then you have the Yazatas, which is the angels we know of. The seven. Well, they also have, I think, was it 712? I don't remember. I need to read the Avesta, but it was just interesting to me. I'm still not entirely sure, but then I recently found out that this I don't know his name, I was actually watching Chosen, and one of the episodes of it where the actor portraying Jesus was talking to, I think it was Thomas, about this Greek person, and they were talking about how they ripped it off from them. And I looked it up, and actually I found out that actually that Greek person, or whatever that was, is actually older. And it was interesting to me that a lot of these mythological stories, two things, they could have either been foretellings for Christ to come, because like I said, we have evidence for Yeshua and everything that he did and things like that, but we don't have much evidence for these mythological characters. But at the same time, I find it very, very hard to just throw them away when they have a lot of similar stories. Like I said, you can't completely throw away Sumerian, for example, because of the Noah story and a lot of similarities in there. And then in the Holy Bible, your Bible mentions Dumuzi and Inanna story. Why is that in the Bible? And Christ was being told the forecoming of Christ, and a lot of different books. It wasn't actually Christ; it was called different names. But still, this Savior figure, this Redeemer, this person called different things in different cultures and things, belief systems, has been foretold for centuries. So I think some of these ancient stories may have been the foretelling eventually for him to come. And I don't know for sure though. There's also a possibility that maybe these stories, maybe there is actually a crazy spiritual realm, and some of these stories took place over in the spiritual realm, and then they ended up coming to our planet. I don't know. It talks about the olden times and heroes of renown, and the Zoroastrianism talks about these Yazadas, or these figures that are like gods, but not the supreme God. And I don't know, just interesting. I'm gonna keep studying, and if I keep thinking about things, even in my testimony, I was led to believe that spirits are trapped on this planet. And I don't know what that means. I don't want to think that we're trapped here in this cycle, but you think about it, in the ancient times, maybe this cycle that the Gnostics were worried about is the cycle that Christ broke or will break in the future, when he just brings peace. Because whether you think about him as Christ, whether you think about him as a Sheosant, what does that mean? It means Savior, Redeemer. That's what it means. And a lot of these different characters have the same titles as Christ, but it's just a different language. What changes is the different belief systems and things. And it seems like a lot of this, and I can totally understand. For some reason, the spiritual realm it's very mysterious. You start experiencing this stuff, and I don't know, it's almost like something wants to see what you think. What do you think about all this? What do you think about this stuff? You experience all this stuff, and then you have to come with your own conclusions on what you think it may mean. I haven't gotten no 100% answers about anything that I experience, and I'm just over here just like, maybe it's like this, maybe it's like that, maybe it's like this, maybe it's like that. And then all the other guys in the past did the same thing. Maybe it's like this, maybe it's like that. Don't know. And I think, I had another good one that I was just wondering the other day, how I was like talking about how the universe is always like ever expanding. And then how, let's say, I'm not saying this is truth, I just think it'd be really cool if so, okay? You know how they say hypothetically, if you use when you look at a telescope and you're looking through the universe and you're looking back, you can actually see back in time, right? Okay, so what if when you become a spirit, you're not here no more? You can freely roam around, and you can literally go up to like outer space or whatever, and you can trail back and see the beginning of creation. You're not limited by this body no more. What if the answers are there? We just can't reach them yet. It's kind of cool to think about. Anyways, I'm going to leave the video short there. I'm still studying. Like I said, I don't know what I am right now. I'm just trying to be a good person, trying to be a good person. Follow whatever I feel led to do. And right now, I feel led to study different things and learn. And I believe, and also, a lot of the words and things that are used in the Bible are common, very common terms that were used in the Avesta and the Shayosant, for example, like the children of light, being the light of the world, and these are major terms in the in the Zoroastrian belief system. And I want to believe that the Bible is a compilation of godly experiences that was never supposed to be separated into different belief systems to cause this division and hatred. And it all come together over time. Like, let's say it starts in Sumer, right? It starts in Sumer. And I'm not saying that's absolute truth, but I'm just hypothetical. I can't 100% say. I have to go do research on history. But it starts in Sumer. You have the pagan belief system, right? Pagan belief system. They start doing this, and then it goes over to the Zoroastrian area, which is somewhere in Iran, Iraq. I think it's Iran. And they decide that they break away. There's one supreme being, but there's also this negative entity. So, and then they have these other beings, which in the pagan system they call them deities or gods or whatever. And the Zoroastrian, they just call them yazadas. Like, people could still worship them if they wanted to, because they were just spirits of God. They wasn't their own individual entities exactly, but they were of God. But I believe over time, people were worshiping these yazadas, if you want to call them that, and it caused so much division throughout the world, and hatred and war and this and that, people trying to kill people over it, that eventually it became a part to where it was only worshiping one. I believe possibly the Sumerian belief system was with Israel when they went over to Egypt, and they started learning the different Egyptian cultures. And if you know the Sumerian tablets and things like that, it's very interesting that these Sumerian gods, according to their own mythologies, eventually became the Egyptian gods we know of today. So it actually lines up pretty perfectly. And then the Sumerian stories, like the Noah's flood and things like that, I believe that there's a possibility that the Israelis, while they were still, they still knew Sumerian stuff, and they were getting embedded into Egyptian type stuff. And so that over time, they were sharing their own versions of these stories. Like they took into the I don't know which one's the oldest, but what would be older, they took the flood story from the ancient Sumerian knowledge, and they carried it with them. And over time, it built on top of that. So when they started writing these things down, that's why we have, in the Bible, we have these ancient pagan stories, and we have all this other stuff, because it's been compilations over time. At least that's what I think. That there's a good possibility. I can't say for sure. But it's the only good logical conclusion I can find why there's pagan stories and other things in the Bible. The only other option would be the one that no one likes, including myself, and is that the Bible is not good and it's bad, and that it was that this Yeshua person came and was such a disruptor in this world that he was breaking belief systems left and right. He was bringing people back to awakening, back to enlightenment, back to actually seeking. Not a book, not this, not that, but seeking. They didn't like that. And so they took care of it. They ended up taking him out, and they threw a bunch of their mythologies in with his story. He caused such a disruption that he couldn't just be erased. So they added all these other stories that they used to believe in the past. Like I said, Christ is very some of the ways they portray him is very similar to Mithras, for example, and just other ancient stories and they made their own version of it. Now, I don't know what the truth is, but I do believe that if you read the Bible, depending on your own spiritual knowledge, you can get multiple meanings from different things that he's talking about. So there is a possibility that there may have been negativities added in there, like some contradictions. Like I said, the Gnostics had their own evil view of things because they didn't like the flesh. They thought this world was a prison, and they tried to justify it in their belief system. But some of the other teachings in there sound very similar to the way Christ talked. So there could actually have been more spiritual teachings that got removed and then changed into the book we have today. Because although I don't agree with a lot, I don't agree with some things the Gnostic book talks about. Some of this stuff makes a lot of sense based on what I experience, and that's kind of the way I'm gonna leave it. It's hot in here. All right. If anybody wants to add to anything I've said, if you want to correct me, I'm perfectly open for it, guys. I'm always trying to learn. I'm trying to figure out my own understanding of these things because I have all these things going on. I have dreams, visions that I see all the time. I see beings I don't understand, and I'm trying to make sense of it all. But like I said, part of it's a journey. It's like I'm not going to receive the answers until maybe a specific time, maybe on a time frame, maybe after I'm dead. I don't know. But I can understand how a lot of these people were just experiencing and they were sharing their views and what they thought to try to make sense of things. So, God bless. And I'll see you next time, guys. As of right now, just a quick update. I have not been attacked by that spirit I was telling you guys about. I've had a few dreams, but nothing like... I did have a pretty interesting dream the other day. I will talk about real quick, and I don't really know what it means. But I fell asleep on my couch with my laptop, and I got like my body's like, I don't know how to explain it. It's like I felt like I was in the spirit, and I was getting pulled forward through like this portal thing. I don't know what it was. And I remember my thought was, it felt so real that I was like, man, is my laptop, it was like, is my laptop about to fall off and break? And so I was like, am I going to have time to put it over to the side, you know? Because I use that to study with. And so I don't remember exactly what happened with the laptop, but I ended up shooting forward, and I started going like up, and then I went down, And then it's like I got ripped out of it, you know, like I got ripped out of it. And then I transferred back, and I was like sitting on my couch. I'm still sleeping at this time. And I feel this massive spiritual presence inside of me. And I feel it like tugging, like it's trying to break out of my body, but it can't. And it does that for like a few minutes, and I was like, am I about to die? What's going on here? And then I woke up. I don't know what that means. Don't know. Keep on telling you guys, I feel like one day I'm gonna get taken in the spirit, and I'm not gonna come back. All right, I'm going now. Take care.